Hey everyone, welcome back to the next installment of my Jurassic Live ranking series. We're doing rares now. This will be a longer video than the last one because there are, of course, more rares than there are commons. There are 72 rares, while there are 42 commons. So this will be taking longer. I decided to have hybrids and non-hybrids included together instead of separately. And yeah, just like last time, this is unboosted and in the full environment, not rare only. And of course, this is my opinion. My list is not the right list. Yeah. Anyways, starting off at number 72 is Notosaurus. Yeah, this is the worst creature in the game. This is worse than the worst common. Notosaurus is just unapologetically awful. Bad damage with only one damaging move, and it's not fast at all, and its health isn't enough. Sure, it has nice healing, but that doesn't help in anything that isn't raids, and raids don't count for this ranking. So yeah, Dilophosaurus is just super bad. 71, Fukuisaurus. It's a fierce and a bad one. It's got average health, bad damage, decent speed. It is D-cell immune. It's just its moveset is really bad. It can only do 3,000 in 2 turns. It's got Group Ferocity Strike. Group Ferocity Strike just sucks, and it has these 2 basic moves for some reason. It's just super bad. 70's Irritator. Yeah, another one that's really bad. It's faster than Fukuisaurus, still has D-cell immune, has a higher crit chance, and more health. Same base damage, same bad output. It's similar. 69, Amargasaurus. Amargasaurus is a lot like the Notosaurus, which is better. It is a little slower, it has same base damage, but it has more health, and it actually has a multiplier. 68, Tupandactylus. Yeah, this is a really bad rare counter attacker. It's frail, it doesn't have much base damage. Sure, it's fast, but that's not enough. And its moveset is mediocre at best. Stomp Frost is not very good. These moves aren't like bad, but they just don't work well enough. It's too frail. 67, Bajadasaurus. This is what you get when you take carbon enemies and take away everything good about it. It does not have any armor. It is nowhere near, like, it does not have near enough survivability to get off that devastation. And its base damage sucks, so unless you can get to that devastation, you're not doing any damage anyways. Pahadasaurus is just bad. 66, Megalosaurus. Non-hybrid deer tend to be very bad. Although there is one that's actually not too bad that we'll get to in a little bit. Bad health, bad damage, fast, good resistances, and a not very good moveset. It doesn't do much damage at all, but it can survive a decent amount because of the healing and shields. It just doesn't work in general. 65, Untitled Gen 2. This got buffed. Well, kind of buffed. It was a very tiny buff that made barely any difference. Yeah, I got that tiny buff back in 2.14. Basically got Evasive Strike swapped out into Distraction, which I would say Distraction is ever so slightly better than Evasive Strike, but it does not make any difference in its ranking whatsoever. Still has awful damage output, and it's frail. And yeah. 64, Argentinosaurus. Tanky, but super slow, and pretty bad damage output, and Extended Critical Strike and Group Disarming Strike are 2 of the worst moves in the game. Yeah, we're just on a bad streak here. 63, Postosuchus. This is basically just Capasuchus, but better. It has a lot less health, but it has more damage, and it's a little faster, and it's got better resistance. Well, it's got the same resistances plus bit of bleed resistance, and its moveset, Adrenaline Pulse is also really bad, but it's just able to actually do more damage, which is what matters for it. It can actually do 3,600 to 2 turns instead of 3,000, which can make a difference. It's still super bad, though. There's no point in using it ever. 62, Barry Onyx Gen 2. This got similar base stats to Irritator, but a bit less. Same resistances, but it does have a better moveset because it has the multiplier. Still very bad, though. 61, Entoldon. Pretty similar to Barry Onyx Gen 2, but in my opinion, just slightly better. It is frailer, it doesn't have D-Cell immune, replaces it with stun immune, and it is a little slower, but it does have higher base damage, and Mutual Fury has its ups and downs compared to Ready to Crush. And it also has a group shattering impact instead of just regular defense shattering impact, so that's a little better. 60, Diplotacylus Gen 2. A cunning with bad damage output, but it can stall against Fierce for a while. It's fast, it has decent health. It's what most amphibians have, like most of the non-hybrid amphibians have, but this one, out of the two rare non-hybrid amphibians, this is the weaker one. Although some people disagree. 59, First Tyrannosaurus. Mediocre damage output, but not necessarily bad damage output. Fast, frail. It just doesn't work because of the amount of resilience, and also it doesn't have anything stand out about it. 58, Notosaurus. It's a tanky Ankylosaur with bad damage output. Superiority, like, all three of these moves are pretty solid. They just don't work together enough for it to be good. If this thing had a counterattack, it would shoot up into probably the top 30. But, actually, maybe not that high, but it would maybe much higher. Yeah. But as it stands, it's just not very good. 57, Amargasaurus. This is just like Argentinosaurus, but better. It has a little bit less health, a little bit less damage, a little bit more speed, and less crit chance, but it has multipliers. And it can spam them, too. Now, of course, with its bad base damage, it's still only doing 3,000 in 2 turns, but at least it's more than what Argentinosaurus does, and it is reasonably tanky. 56, Utahraptor. The first of the 4 rare raptors and the weakest one. Super frail, decent damage, fast, although it is the slowest non-hybrid raptor. And a basic raptor moveset. Yeah. 55, Scaphandactylus. In my opinion, this one is quite overrated by some people. It's very frail, very bad base damage, and it's fast. And Strike is terrible. Minor Swoop is pretty bad. Heal is okay for something like this because it could maybe allow it to survive. So basically, you swap it in, swap a wound. Hope you don't die from the first hit because you're super frail. Heal. Hope it's enough to survive the second hit. Then Minor Swoop. Really, the main thing about this that you can maybe see it being good for is no escape for swap predicting, but it's still bad. 54, our first hybrid, Inosterium. It could be so much better than it is. It's frail but good damage and super fast with distraction immunity. Its moveset is the main issue. Its moveset sucks. Cunning Strike's okay, Mutual Fury is okay, Revenge Impact is not very good, and Group Distraction is very bad. It just doesn't work. However, you could make the argument that it's better than 53, which is Majuntasaurus. They're both to some of the weakest hybrids in the game. They're both super bad. I could see myself placing Inosterium above Majuntasaurus. They both suck. Majuntasaurus has really bad base stats, but a really good moveset. Really, if this had like 3,900 health and give it 3,900 health and like 113 speed and maybe D-Cell immunity, and this thing would actually be pretty solid. Maybe a little more base damage on top. 52, Orlicosaurus Gen 2, the better of the 2 non-hybrid rare amphibians, and the best non-hybrid amphibian in the game. Well, actually, I'd say tied for the best non-hybrid amphibian in the game. Yeah. Really good base stats, just a pretty bad moveset. It still only does 3,000 in 2 turns, but that is more than Diplotacylus Gen 2 does, even though Diplotacylus Gen 2 has a multiplier. Yeah. If it had an impact, it would be much higher. 51, Utahraptor. This is pretty similar to Tupandactylus, but better. Alright, sorry about that cut. I ran out of disk space, but I'm good now. Okay, so back to the Utahraptor. So, like I said, similar to Tupandactylus, but just better. It doesn't have a shield, but it can do much more damage because of Ferocious Strike. And also has more health. 50, Cervalces, the other rare non-hybrid deer, the best non-hybrid deer, although it is still quite underrated. One of the few creatures with both Distract and D-Cell immunity, but it's still frail. It does do more damage though, because it has more base damage and Resilient Strike, and Shield is starting to get back a decent enough move. That said, I still think it's overrated just because its damage output still isn't that good, and it is still super frail. 49, Echo. Another rare raptor, super frail, decent damage, fast.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Why does my Alexa keep talking in my videos? What the heck? Cunning Strike. The thing that sets it apart from the other non-hybrid raptors, or at least the other rare non-hybrid raptors, is it has a cleansing move and a precise move. 48, Delta. Another rare raptor. Simple moveset, although it does have a run move, which I think sets it above Echo. Although I could see myself switching them. It also has a little bit more health, and it's a bit faster. 47, Quetzalcoatlus. Very tanky. Very tanky and average speed, but very bad damage, and a not too good moveset. Not bad. Not like super bad though. 46, Charlie. The best of the rare raptors. It is super frail, but it does much more damage than the other ones. And its moveset is an exact copy of Utahraptor's. 45, Aramborgiania, I think it's how you pronounce it. This one's kind of weird to pronounce. It's a less tanky alternative to Quetzalcoatlus, but it has Rampage and Run, which I think is better. 44, Argentinosaurus. This is, it's, bad base stats and a okay moveset. It does have solid turn 1, though. 3,000 damage on turn 1. Group Starting Strike is still really bad, though. Ortosaurus, number 43. This one is, despite also being a rare Stegosaur, is a little different. It doesn't have a counter, but it has much better base stats. Really, it's, I put it above Argentinosaurus because I think it does a little better against Phlox because of Group Decelerating Rampage. 42, Triceratops. Really, it's a swapper and not a very good one either. Really bad base stats and a not too good moveset. It's just swap and Stunning Strike alone puts it up here. 41, Fukuisaurus. This is basically just Edmontosaurus, but much better. It got a tiny bit less health, but it has a little more damage and is faster, and it has resistances. Shelter is actually a pretty good move, and has group resilient impact, and persistent counter helps it increase its damage output. Still not good, but not too bad either. 40, Pterosaurus. It's on escaper with surprisingly solid damage output despite it having bad base damage. Like, this thing can do over 4,000 damage in 2 turns. And it's also reasonably tanky. But it also suffers against shields and dodge and distract. It's a little hard for me, to place this thing, but this is just where I put it. No Escape is good, of course. 39, Gorgosaurus. The first of 3 rare chompers. And the weakest of them, Low health for a chomper, low damage for a chomper, super slow, but it does have decel immunity, which does not help at all. The main thing that sets it apart is Ferocious Strike, which allows it to deal extra damage. 38, Myelania. This is the rare turtle. Bad base stats, except for, of course, crazy armor. Lesser Bridges of Heal is super bad, but Superior Vulnerability and Devastation are pretty good. 37, Argentinosaurus. Easily, well, not like by a huge margin anymore, but still definitely the best eagle non-hybrid in the game. Well, even though it's not really an eagle, but the best of the like flying non-hybrid birds. Okay health, low damage, high speed, a lot of resistances, and it's very stally moveset. It's not gonna do much damage, but it can stall forever, and it completely destroys most fierce. 36, Dinotherium. Unpopular opinion, I actually think Dinotherium is better than Argentinosaurus. This is also, it's also better than Woolly Mammoth, although that's not so controversial. Mediocre health, despite being a giant elephant. Low damage, mediocre speed. The base stats aren't too good, but the moveset is pretty good. Ferocious Impact is a very good move. And I'm surprised people don't talk about it. Sure, Instant Rumble isn't that good, but Ferocious Impact is just great. And Superiority Strike is a solid move too. 35, Orlicosaurus Gen 2. Despite being a rarity lower, I actually think it's slightly better than the other Orlicosaurus. Sure, it has slightly less damage, but Debilitating Distraction is definitely better than Distracting Strike. Otherwise, it is exactly like the other Orlicosaurus, as besides Rampage, it has 50% bleed resistance, it has 3000 health, 129 speed, minimal speed up strike. Yeah. 34, Arctops. The first of two rare Gorgonopses, the next one we'll be getting to next. Frail, decent damage, fast, distract immunity. Revenge Distracting Strike is alright, I guess, but not really that great. Rampage is good for dealing damage. 33, Gorgonops, the other rare Gorgonopsian. Non-hybrid Gorgonopsian, because the other one's Endosterium, and that thing's really bad. Where is it? There you are. Honestly, I could see myself going either way on which one's better. I change my mind regularly on it. Gorgonops has slightly higher health, and it's a little faster, but has much less damage. It has Revenge Rampage, though, which is a very good move. And it does do, on Revenge, it does do slightly more damage in 2 turns than Arctops. But off Revenge, it doesn't. 32, Arcturus. Arcturus, I think, is a little bit underrated. It's not as bad as people say. But it's still not good. Geez, Toolbox, are you gonna load? This is taking a very long time. Hold on. Why is it stuck on Gorgonops? Hold on. That might be because my internet also isn't that great. Come on. Okay, I'll talk about Arcturus here. So, Arcturus, decent health, decent damage, slow. It's got decent autoimmune and rend resistance. Heavy Strike is kind of mediocre. Alert Accelerating Impact is very good. Defensive Edge is bad. It's kind of weird how this thing works, but I don't think it's that bad. Some people think it sucks, but I don't think it does. It's just not that good either. What is going on with Toolbox? Changing networks help. There we go. Okay, I got it now. 31, Megalosaurus. This is another counterattacker. Mediocre health, the other base stats suck. It has Distract Immune, which is the main standout in this one. Brazilian Strike, Tonic Shields, Ferocious Strike. Ferocious Strike is good for a counterattacker. Otherwise, Megalosaurus isn't bad, it just isn't that great. Ferocious Strike helps it deal extra damage with the counter, of course, and Distract Immunity helps against Cunnings a little bit. And right above it is the other one, Carnotaurus, although I think this is a decent gap between the two. Carnotaurus has worse base stats across the board and no resistances, but it has the best counterattack in the game, Greater Rending Counter. Yeah, that's really the only reason I have Carnotaurus above, is because Greater Rending Counter is just so good. 29, Oviraptor. We're in the top, well, we were in the top 30 of Carnotaurus, but 29 is Oviraptor, and I guess average damage, very frail, fast, Distract Immune. Devious Strike is a solid move. Sidestep is also solid. Cunning Strike is also solid. It's got a decent moveset. It's just the base stats could be better. 28, Rodriguez Solitaire. If this were a tournament tier list, this would be like a tournament ranking for rare tournaments. This would be a lot higher, but in the full meta, I am not convinced. Pretty like frail for a flock, not that much damage. Well, I guess for a flock, it's got decent damage. Fast, alright resistances, and its moveset is okay, I guess. Flightless Strike isn't very good. Protective Alert isn't very good. Cunning Rampage is alright. Alert Roost is eh. It's just, it works in rare tournaments because it just has the right matchups for that format, but otherwise it just, nah. 27 is another flock, Tupandactylus, that I also think is overrated. If this were a tournament tier list, it'd also be higher. But yeah, this thing is super frail for a flock, the second frailest flock in the game. Damage output is pretty mediocre. And it is super fast, though. It's super fast while having D-Cell Immune. And Instant Cunning Strike is a very good move. Evasive Impact's fine as well. It doesn't have a turn 4 option. If you do Instant Cunning Strike, Evasive Impact, Instant Cunning Strike, you have to do Sidestep in turn 4, but that doesn't really matter. And Stuck Landing is also a really good swap in because it dodges 100% damage. But really, it's just too frail. 26, T-Rex Gen 2. The second of the 3 rare chompers. This one is very basic. Average to above average health, high damage, low speed, and a bunch of defense, basically just general fierce moves. I do think it's a little underrated, though. 25, Spinosaurus. It's a bleeder. It's got no escape. It's got pretty low health, surprisingly, despite being such a giant animal. Bad damage, but it doesn't need damage because it's a bleeder. And decent speed, no escape, and bleed that's a good combo. Otherwise, not too notable besides that. 24, Dimetrodon. This one, like, high resistances and good damage output with average health, low-ish speed. It's a solid fierce, I guess. I mean, we're starting to get into good territory. 23, Dilophosaurus. Kind of underrated. Decent health for a cunning, with average damage. And it is slow for a cunning too, but it also has a solid moveset with Cunning Rampage. Yeah, it's also the only rare that has a 100% chance to beat Albertosaurus. But we're in full formats, that doesn't really matter. 22, Therazinosaurus. A new one. Low health, average damage, high speed. It's got some resistances. Cunning Ferocious Strike is really good, and But delayed precise rampage outside of the whole priority part is pretty bad. Yeah, it does high damage output. It's good. It is the best non-hybrid Therazinosaur, but it's not like super good either. 21 Moss Chops. This is definitely a revenge dino. Bad damage, lowish speed, high health. It's got the two best immunities in the game, and it's got basically multiplier spam once you get it in. I did not mean to click that. You bring it in on revenge, do the revenge distorting impact, and then just swap it. Well, like just spam that and precise rampage until you die or until you win. Overall, works pretty well, but it's not great. I mean, it's good, it's just not that good. 20 Giraffe Titan. Or there you are. High health, low damage, low speed, typical tank, solid resistances. It's got rampage. Bellow sucks, but oh well, you don't really need it. And it's got Resilient Strike. It's like Brachiosaurus, but worse. It's a decent rare tank, but there is a much better one coming up soon. A much better rare sauropod. 19, Titanoboa Gen 2. A good on-escaper. There we are. It doesn't do much damage except for the on-escape when someone decides to swap out against this thing for whatever reason. It is got very good taunt immunity sucks, but the other three are good. Pretty basic base stats. Shield and Distorting Strike though, very good. Precise impact, not so much, but I guess if you want to deal a little bit extra damage compared to using Shield and Distorting Strike. And on escape Dust Cloud is of course the standout. Because you're going to increase your damage and put up 100% shield. Overall, good rare. 18, Kalenken. Another cunning. It has bleed immunity. It's weird that its only resistance is bleed immunity, but I guess it doesn't hurt. It's of course frail, very high damage, and super fast. It has swap and dodge. Evasive Strike is not that good. Raking Claws is also not that good. Sidestep solid though. Its main thing is doing good damage. But there is one that is just this thing, but better. That's coming up later on. 17, Diplotator. In my opinion, one of the most underrated creatures in the game. I think this thing is good. It's frail, sure, but it has good damage and it's fast. And the main thing is the multipliers. Ferocious Strike plus Defense Shouting Impact. This thing does over 5,000 damage in 2 turns, which is really good for a rare hybrid. Yeah. Anyways, number 16, Ionosuchus. The next swapper. Of course, bad stats, typical to a swapper. This one does have Resilient Impact, though, which is pretty solid, and it can combo that to Greater Stunning Strike, and it still has Dig-Ins if it needs to get out. Much better than Triceratops. 15, Ankylocodone. 3 rare hybrids in a row. It's got low base stats apart from health, and of course it has the armor and crit chance. Typical synapsid resistances. Well, like typical like Sphenacodon type resistances, Dimetrodon type resistances. These, all the like Dimetrodon rig creatures that are common and rare have these exact resistances. So yeah, it really relies on multiplier spam with these and then shielding whenever it needs to. It doesn't do much damage, but it can last a while. And overall, it's solid. 14, Elasmotherium. A decent bruiser. Pretty tanky. And also has decent damage output with Resilient Impact and the Taunting Rampage. Taunting Rampage is one of the weakest moves in the game, but Resilient Impact combos well into any kind of Rampage. It's also decel immune in case you fight something slower that has decel. So yeah. 13, Dodicarus. A very tanky tank. Insane effective HP. And really good damage output on top of it. Resistances aren't that good, but oh well. And for how tanky it is, you'd expect it to be slower. It also has a shield on top of that. This thing is really good. 12, Ornithomimus. This is like Kalenkin and Oviraptor, but better. It has a run move. It does basically the same damage output as Kalenkin. Same health, same speed. Better resistances, though. And it has instant distraction, which... it's up to you whether that's better than sidestep or not, but I think it's slightly worse. Yeah, that's one of the minus. 11, Triceratops, another swapper. Where are you? There you are. This one is one that is not going to kill anything, but is going to annoy the crap out of your opponent. Tanky, like, has a lot of health, which is kind of rare for a Ceratopsian. And it still has the typical 1000 damage and low speed. And it also has awful multipliers. But Distraction helps against Fierce. Long Disarming Strike slows down longer. And it has greater Stunning Strike to stall more. And of course, Swap and Stunning Strike, which, if this thing didn't have Swap and Stunning Strike, then it would be way down. It would be near the bottom of the ranking. And also Swap Mention Immunity, so that no escape doesn't really hurt it. Starting off our top 10 is Marsupial Lion. The thing that two-shots almost every tank in existence. Pretty mediocre base stats, aside from crit chance. Decel immunity. Prowl isn't too good, but it helps. I guess it does help the counter attack a little bit. And of course, minor running attack and running takedown. Basically, two shots anything that doesn't distract, dodge, or resist it. Or, like, absorb it if it's a flock. So yeah, well, let me plug in my phone. I'm looking at the ranking of it's okay. Number 9, Sarkis. Another powerful fierce rare. This one is frailer, but has higher base damage. Even though Marsupial Lion's base damage doesn't matter at all, and it's a bit faster. Still has a high crit chance. Still decel immune. Still has running takedown. This one does have no escape though. Trading out the counterattack for it. And it still has a cleansing strike, and it's got fierce impact. Overall, very good, but not quite the monster it used to be. It never got nerfed. It just isn't as powerful as it used to be because of power creep and stuff. Number 8, Archaeopteryx, the next flock. It's got pretty bog standard flock stats. Resistances aren't really anything of note. But the moveset is pretty solid. Blade Cutting Rampage really isn't very good, but it works for Archaeopteryx. You can Evasive Impact to put up a dodge, then Alert Buff and Strike to set up your crit chance, and then Blade Cutting Rampage might crit and deal extra damage. Alert On-Escape Evasion is also one of the best on-escapes in the game because it rally heals. Well, not one of the best, but it is a very good on-escape. And of course, it's a flock, and there is no such thing as a bad flock. Speaking of flocks, number 7, Compsognathus Gen 2, the best rare flock. This is misleading. It still actually has Courageous Alert, which on Secure is not precise, but it's a 100% crit chance, and on Threatened, it got the Threatened right though. So yeah, good health for a flock, but low damage, decent speed. Alright resistances. Courageous Alert is a very good basic move. Hop and Mock is kind of mediocre. Impact and Run is Alert the Flock is, in my opinion, a little overrated, but it's not necessarily bad. Alert Swarm is one of the worst on escapes, but again, it's not bad. Compy Gen 2 is, it's solid. It's more than solid. It's a really good rare. Mostly because of that priority Courageous Alert. Number 6, Dreadnoughtus. The Giraffe Titan on steroids, basically. Tied for the highest health in the game with a little bit of armor on top, and the typical 1000 base damage, typical low speed. 2 best immunities in the game. Spear Vulnerability, which is an incredibly good basic move. Group Accelerating Impact is good. Taunting Shield Rampage is good. Swap Invincibility is good. Overall, it just has a lot going for it. Number 5, Megalonyx, the rare sloth. It's just Aremotherium on crack. It's got better base stats across the board. Still has the decel immunity, still has the counter, still has camouflage. It trades out Cunning Rampage for Cautious Rampage. Cautious Rampage is really good, and it also has a Cunning Strike for that too. And it's got an On Escape. The distraction part of the On Escape is completely useless and does nothing, but it's got the speed increase, crit chance increase, and dodge. Overall, even though it does get shut down by our next creature, like absolutely, completely, it is still a very good rare. Our next creature being Dracorex, the best of the rare swappers. It's got high health and good speed with relatively low damage, but it's got Swap of Resilient Strike, which sets up a vulnerability and goes through dodge. Well, removes dodge, and then that vulnerability could go into a powerful Resilient Impact, which sets up more vulnerability and removes dodge, and that will go into Instant Charge, which is priority and can stun. Overall, this is a good. This is a good, like, it's pretty. I mean, you're almost always gonna follow that order with this thing, that move order, so it is predictable, but it's still powerful nonetheless. Number 3, another rare hybrid, Perlith. This one, even though it has awful base stats, has an incredibly good moveset with Ferocious Strike, with a Rending Counter, and a heal. The Ferocious Heal heals up a decent amount of its health back, like more than half. And Defense Shattering Strike is honestly kind of useless on it, but oh well. Short defense is okay on it for dealing with like resilience and cunnings, although it's not going to do well against cunnings in general. And it's got no escape, so most swappers are not going to do well against it. This thing is a very good tank buster. It just works really well against a good amount of creatures. But it's not the best rare hybrid. For that, we have to go to number 2, Sucotator. This is the Swiss Army knife of really the whole game. It has a lot of stuff. Like, it's very versatile. Decent base stats across the board with a very weird moveset considering its ingredients. Like, you would not expect a hybrid of these two to have Superiority Strike, Nullifying Impact, and Instant Distraction, but here we are. It also doesn't have the swap in or the resistances of Irritator Gen 2, and doesn't have the on escape of Suchomimus, but with how versatile this thing is, that doesn't matter. But it is not the best rare, and number 1 is Albertosaurus, which is far and away the best rare in the game. This thing is ridiculous. It's got high damage, decent health, high crit chance, really good resistances, and the big part is Killer Instinct, which is a massive... It's a priority defense shouting impact on turn 2, which with this thing's base damage is a lot. It kills so many creatures in 2 hits, and a lot of them can't do anything about it. It's a great tank buster. It can even beat some Cunnings because of the priority. And of course beats most other fears too. This thing is a beast. And that concludes the rare ranking. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think. And like and subscribe if you want. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.